And yeah, and also in today's class, I might sound a little because I've been not feeling well from like a few days, but I hope yeah, it's good. It's good. Great. So, yeah, in this class, we'll be, having the discussion about what APIs are, as we discussed in the last class, that, a quick overview about what APIs are and how do we handle responses from them, right? I'm sure that in the last class, you might have got an idea about asynchronous JavaScript, right? That how this whole asynchronous world of JavaScript is slight different than the normal behavior of JavaScript. And now I think all of you can make sense, right? Where at particular moments, right, we might need to use this particular we might need to care about some asynchronous operation, right? And don't worry if you are still not very sure that how that is being used in the day-to-day programming life, because in the last class we were just using set timeout and some normal functions to simulate that, right? So first of all, let me quickly start by sharing my screen. I'll not uh, invest much time into normal introduction. I'll just begin by quickly introducing you to what we will be discussing in this class. This class is again going to be a simple and short discussion. Great. Oh, just a second. I should have used Jamboard. Where is it? Yeah. Yep. I hope you can access this one. Great. You guys can see this one, right? This Jamboard. Yes. All right. Great. So, yeah. First of all, begin. Where is my pen? Yeah. Um, Today's agenda is going to be, firstly, we'll discuss about what is API, and I'll just give you a very layman example layman explanation and a little technical explanation about that also. I'll not be, diving deep into API ka world, because there is a lot more thing you can expect from APIs, right? There are response headers, there are, internal functionalities and all these other things. I'll not go into that zone right now, because, main thing is that we are not here to really discuss about APIs, but we are here majorly to discuss asynchronous nature of these API calls, and how to basically fetch some data from an external system and then to use it on, on our simple plain JavaScript files, right? Or maybe in our simple plain, what do you say, HTML and CSS files, right? Moving on, right? When we will be moving with React JS, and when we'll be going into the backend stuff also, right? We will be using more such complicated AIs, sorry, not AI, but APIs, right? To work or to create some really good level of projects into this, coursework. And at the same time, when we will move to the backend part, right? You will not only be a mere viewer of the API, right? You will also be creating your own APIs, right? And you can you can just make these API available to the general use case also, right? To the general public also, right? So we will dive deeper and deeper into the world of API, but today is just going to be a simple and yet crisp introduction about API, right? After APIs, we'll be quickly discussing about how can we handle this API response, handle API response, right? And in this same discussion, right, whatever is the spelling of response, in the same discussion, we'll be using these different terminologies about what are these callback functions. Although we might have discussed it, right? We'll be discussing about what are these promises, right? What are these promises? And we'll see the use case of this dot then and dot catch, which you might have heard of, in some cases. And at end, we'll discuss about async await, async and await, right? So this is a whole and overall picture about what all we'll be discussing today. And yeah, that is going to be a simple and short discussion, right? So any questions before we begin with this? And today I might have introduced you to this stuff that I might sound a little low today, but I hope that's bearable. Right, can we begin with the discussion? Great. All right. So yeah, now about APIs, right? So let's take one example, right? I'm sure all of you, yeah, all of you must have, booked some movie tickets, or might have tried for online transaction, or paid their electricity bills and sort of other things using Book My Show, Paytm Insider, and all these other things, third-party libraries and apps that are available in the market, right? So do you think, right, that Paytm has access to maybe your State Bank of India ka server ka access, they can make any payment on their behalf? Or do you think that PVR, Inox, or all these multiplex chains have given their complete use case rights to the Paytm or Book My Shows? No, right? That's not possible. And that's, even that is possible, right? They are not going to do that, right? Because that is a third party system, and you cannot allow any third party system or any third party library or any third party application to completely access your internal servers, right? This is not one of the good ways to do, right? So what they are doing is they are allowing only specific functionality via specific channel, right, to only specific applications, right, with their obviously authorized, whatever applications are authorized, right? You cannot just create your own application the very next day, and you cannot just say that, okay, my app is also is also capable, or it's also live, it's also a valid app to book movie tickets into PVR now, right? It does not work this way, right? You have to be a authorized person to do that, and you cannot just do it just by creating a simple application, right? So what is that flow, right? So basically the data communication that is happening in between two external server in this case, right? We have took an example of Paytm, right? And maybe PVR ka example let's take for a minute. Okay, so obviously they both are different servers, right? Different entities and all together. Still, they are connected in some sort, right? You can book your PVR movie tickets via Paytm app, right? So how this is happening is that there is a specific channel, right? There is a specific channel, right? Which not like, I mean, there is a specific channel in this PVR server, right? Let's, for an example, let's say that this is a PVR server. There is a specific channel via which, right? Please notice this, right? Via which all the movie ticket booking, right? Movie ticket booking can happen, right? Assume it this way. This is a whole, whole bank, right? It is a whole bank ka building, right? In this bank ka building, there is a only specific window, right? Wherein, from wherein you can deposit your cash. Again, we are not taking example of all these different use case scenario that you can have a machine through which you can deposit cash. You can deposit cash via any other means, right? We are not taking that example. We are taking a very, a very conventional example that there is a single window, right? Through which you can deposit your cash, right? That is your cashier window. So only that window is responsible for transaction of money via your account in that particular bank, right? So again, this is that channel, and only via this channel, if you enter, right, you don't have access to your passbook printing, or you don't have access to your check clearance, right? I hope you are getting it. There is a only window that is only specific for your transaction happening in, or maybe your movie ticket booking in right now, and that can only entertain that sort of queries, right? If you just go to cashier window and if you just say that, okay, I want to get check deposited, or I want to just query about what is my current balance, right? They'll not entertain any of such things, right? So that particular thing, right, that is, in a layman term, we can call as application programming interface, which is API for short, we are saying, right? Again, API is much more than that, right? API is much more than a single window or a single pipeline. But just to relate it with an example, I'm just trying to start with a simple example, and then we can definitely build this up. Application programming and interface, right? Yeah. So yeah, so only that can entertain a specific specific kind of query. And in that thing, right, if you just go for the cash depositing window, right, it will ask for a minor authentication, right? It will ask for a basic check, right? That if you wanted to deposit money, right, they might ask you for your maybe they might ask, again, that I don't know that happens into bank accounts or not, right? I've clearly not been a much of a offline bank visitor, but just I'm just taking an example, right? Is that they might ask you for your valid maybe voter ID card, or they might ask you for your valid Aadhaar card, right? Just show me your Aadhaar card that if you are a valid bank account holder, right? So they'll just ask you for basic authentication, and once they feel like, okay, you are, kind of an authenticated person, they might allow your query, right? Or maybe assume it like this way: there is a like what is it? There is a chit chat window, and they'll only chit chat with you, they'll only talk with you in case they feel like, okay, you are a valid citizen or you are a valid person to talk to, right? It is that sort of thing, right? So we can say that in that sense, right? If you again take back to the same example, what is happening is that they are not allowing you to freely roam around the bank, right? Again, in this example, if you were depositing cash, right, they didn't let you go inside their whole locker, right? Did the bank allow you to go inside the whole locker and just deposit money on your own? No, right? They did what thing? They opened up a specific window through which the transaction is happening in, right? They are giving you cash, they are just checking you, but they are not letting you directly go inside their locker. That is particular thing via which servers can communicate with third party servers or with different servers, right? So if this is a PVR, right, they have opened a specific window via which all the ticket bookings can happen. And not only for Paytm, right, they have a specific channel, right? This is a specific channel through which Paytm has tapped in. Again, not only Paytm, Book My Show has tapped in also this via the same channel, and maybe any other application could be there. Maybe I think phone pay maybe that happens. Again, I'm not very sure, right? So whatever application wanted to communicate via this PVR server, they has to follow a particular route, or they has to follow a particular window through which they can tap, because that is the only window from which PVR can allow you to book tickets, right? PVR can allow you to query for movie tickets, right? That channel that the PVR has set up is basically an API in a layman term, right? I hope all of that is making thoda bahut sense. Right? Is it making a little bit sense? All right, great. Now let's talk about a little more technical way, right? And again, I've told you, right, this is just a starting pointer about API, right? So let's see. Just a second. I thought somebody raised a hand or something. Anyways, so let's see, right? Let's build this more. Let's build this discussion more ahead, right? In this, right? Now let's particularly talk in a more technical way, right? So what API actually is in a technical term is basically it is a gateway, right? Kind of, you can say it is a gateway via which maybe two internal system, you can say internal system, or maybe you can say two external system communicate with each other, right? Again, I'm very lazy in writing all of this stuff, right? So I hope you just understood whatever I've just trying to write. Basically, right, you could have as I've told, right, there is a Paytm ka server, right? This is a Paytm server and this is your PVR server, right? So they both are talking to each other. And let me tell you one very interesting thing is that whenever servers, right, maybe if both of them are backend servers or both of them are their own application, they are talking to each other. They can't just talk like a normal person, right? Okay, someone will just randomly ask one question and they will just randomly reply, right? This does not happen that way, right? There is a specific channel via which this communication is happening, right? And that happens via API, right? API is a gateway via which information is transferred, right? And not only we are always saying that, okay, only external system can talk with each other, right? Now let me tell you a very classic and very simple example that all of you will be able to relate. Is that I was constantly telling from the very first classes, right? Ki front end hota hai and then back end hota hai, and then they both of them communicate with each other, right? Because if you click on a website, right? I mean, if you go to a website and if you try to log in, right? So what happens is that when you try to log in, right, you fill in some information, right? Just a second. If it is your front end, right? And if it is your backend, maybe again, that is a symbol for database, but I don't know why I'm doing it this way, but assume this is a backend. Generally backend database is represented via the cylindrical box, but anyways, right, just to differentiate. Okay, so front end and back end, and whenever you fill in any query, right, maybe you wanted to log in, so you filled in some of your credential, right? And whenever you hit submit or go next, what happens is that your front end is eventually passing some data to your back end, that dude, somebody just filled in these credential, right? Can you just quickly check that if that is valid or not, right? If that is valid, please send me an acknowledgement. If not, then can also like send me an acknowledgement that this is not correct, or maybe password, or this does not match, or maybe this email ID already exists, or some message like that, right? So don't you think like when front end and back end are communicating with each other, they must also be communicating via something like an API? Don't you think like that way? Yes, right. That obviously makes sense. Then how else they could be talking to each other? Yes, right. So again, API is not only responsible for inter-server communication, right? They can also be APIs can also be used while you are communicating within your same system, right? Maybe from front end to back end, or not only from front end to back end, right? Now, let me tell you about one more example. Is that even when your back end is doing a task, right? Maybe let me talk about one other example, which I don't know might have if quite a lot of you have thought of, but I'm sure all of you must have done some shopping on Mintra, Flipkart, and all these other things. Let's take an example of Mintra. So what happens is that whenever you search for shirts, right? Whenever you search for shirts, right, couple of shirts arrive in your homepage or in your mobile application, whatever, right? So whenever you apply for, I mean, whenever you click on a particular shirt, right, please notice this, whenever you click on a particular shirt, what happens is that then you see that, okay, that opens up in a separate page, and in that, right, you see the image and etc. Then you see if that is deliverable in your code, right? आपके delivery addresses पे if that is available or not, how many shirt का sizes are available, if it is available in S, if that is available in M or not, how many colors that is available in, right? So don't you think that whenever you clicked on one whenever you clicked on one application or whenever you clicked on one functionality, that internally might have also called for different functionals, right? जब आपने एक शर्ट पे क्लिक किया, इसने इंटरनली भी तो बहुत सारी चीजें गैदर करी है, राइट? What are different pictures of that, if it is available in a particular area or not, what are different sizes available, what are different colors available or not. So internally, when you call for one feature could also what do you say, could also call different APIs in background, right? It's not always necessary that सिर्फ एक सिस्टम को दूसरे सिस्टम से ही कनेक्ट करने के काम में आता है API can also work internally in one function also. एक function के पीछे भी there could be multiple APIs that are running it, right? And why I'm discussing this, I'm just discussing it because I've seen many people having this misconception that, okay, API means only external system which they are using to communicate with each other. It is a standard way how you can communicate between different internal functions, or maybe different what do you say, different external system, or any other sorts. Again, I'm not saying that this is the only way, right? Because what you could have also done is, instead of API calling to each other, instead of talking to each other via API, you could have called for function, right? आप इस पे क्लिक करते हो तो आप इंटरनली एक और फंक्शन को कॉल करो एंड देन गेट द रिस्पांस फ्रॉम देयर, call another internal function and get the response from that. That is also a way. But why do we have APIs is that APIs is basically, देखो एक और एग्जांपल मैं अगर इससे लेके बताऊं तो, when you basically go to bank, right, and you wanted to maybe get your password, maybe you wanted to get your passbook printed, maybe you wanted to get your bank query, like how much amount do I have into that balance query, right? You also wanted to get your cash deposit. What could also happen is that you just go to a window and just say that, dude, I have this so and so problems, or I have so and so request, can you get this done? So what they will do is they will internally call each other employees ki bro ye wala issue hai, they wanted to get their balance check, so they'll just respond to another employee, and then eventually they'll get your data from one single window, right? Or better thing could be, right, they will have multiple different windows, right? If you wanted to get your balance query check, right, go to window number 1, right? If you wanted to get your cash deposit, go to window number 2, right? And all these other things, right? What do you think is a more efficient or more scalable system in that sense, right? Obviously the second way, right, wherein there are different windows for different queries or different functionality, right? You wanted to get this, get it via this route, right? You wanted to get that, get it via this window, something like that, right? That is more robust and that is more sustainable into that sense. So that is why whenever you see like very large scaled and very scalable application build being built, right, you will definitely find people writing more and more API for that, right? You'll find definitely more endpoints. Again, endpoint is again a second name for APIs, right? Generally developers call APIs as endpoint also, right? So yeah, these are like different stuff, right? And don't worry, I'm just realizing this that I might have spoken a lot about APIs now, but you just don't need to worry about all of these different things ki internally kya call kar rahe hain and all these other things and scalability and all. And main thing is just that ki API say you can connect with a third party system or a different server, and you can get a limited access to their server, and they can respond with an answer, and that's it. And that's the only thing you need to keep in your mind right now, right? Any problems till this point? I know, right? I've spoken a lot, but I hope we are good to go, right? We will discuss and we'll see the implementation of that also, right? We'll just as we move ahead, right? Because this is just this is just theoretical information, right? Because I know things will not be clear unless and until I show you how API say you can get response and all these other things, right? So yeah, let's start with the basic coding stuff also, right? Because we might have gotten a very brief idea about this. It's time that we should also see into action. Just a second. Yeah, so we have discussed what is an API, right? And why do we use API? Just a second. Yeah. Now, in order to work with API, right? Let me give you one simple example about API. Let me write sample API, not on a new window. Yeah. And there are like tons of APIs available to you. See, you can see this is again. Will you believe me if I'll tell you that this is an API, right? And this API is nothing but this API is, I think, a kind of a sample testing API, right? Which is giving you a list of different, users, data, their email ID, and all these other things. Let me show you a different one. Cat facts. That is a .ninja. Facts. I think route for that. Just a second. Just a second, guys. Yeah, got it. Got it. Right. So what you are seeing right now is an endpoint and it is an API, right? And if you hit on this, right, what is going to happen is that it is giving you some sort of, yeah, yes, this is what I was wanted to show you. So if you tap onto this, right, you are receiving a data, right? Isn't this a data that this is a fact and this is a length of the fact? Don't worry about this. But every time I hit on this, you will see that I don't know why maybe the server is running slow or maybe my internet is slow. Either of them could be the reason, but main thing is that just come on. Yeah, yeah, got it. So I think their server is responding slow, and whenever I make a call on this, you can see I am receiving a new fact every time. Can you see this? These are some facts about cat has supersonic hearing. Okay, that's good. But whenever I'm making a call on this, whenever I'm hitting on this, right, every time I'm receiving what? Every time I'm receiving a new fact, right? So this is nothing but this is an API, right? And you might not have believed, right? This API looks that simple. API is basically, I told you, right? It is a window via which information can be transferred. So if you look into this, what is happening is that this particular is a route or this particular is the address, right? From where you can collect the data. What do I mean to say is that I simply mean to say that there is a server of cat fact API. Okay, there must be a server of theirs. Must be their server, and they have opened a specific route. They must have opened a specific channel, right? And their channel address is what? Their channel address is this particular thing: catfact.ninja/fact, right? Wait, catfact.ninja, whatever /fact, right? This is their endpoint or this is their API, right? Which they have opened. And if anyone, right, queries to this particular address, they'll be receiving what? They'll be receiving a fact. They'll be receiving a fact. And not only me, right? Even if you try doing this, you will also be receiving this thing. And your response might be a little, yeah, JSON placeholder you can also use. I told you, right? There is a lot of available options you might have in market, but this is one of the things, right? And you might not have exactly the same way of response because I have some extension added in to beautify this, but main thing is that you'll receive the same sort of information, right? So that is how practically may API look like, right? So that is good, but you will simply say that, sir, that is, where is that authentication happening, right? Nobody is asking for our email ID, nobody is asking for our password and all these other things, and how this is giving us that damn thing, right? And if that is that simple, right, we can just simply find out what is what is the API for my bank, and I can just tap into this and I can simply query for all the accounts that my bank my bank hold, right? I can simply type in their account numbers and I can get how much amount they have in their bank, right? So that is good, but for all such API, right, wherein there could be some potential data, there could be some, privacy issues and all these other things, they won't allow you to directly, jump into the such APIs directly without any authentication. Since this is a very simple and, very nothing of a privacy wala data, right? This is just some random facts about cat, right? So they have not protected it. There is no authorization that is happening in that API. That is why you are making a call on this and you are getting the data, right? But if I talk about maybe if I talk about some of the APIs, right, wherein maybe let's talk about this weather API. Again, weather API, may you will say that, sir, what is what is what is a matter of privacy over here? Anyone can get the data. That is good, but okay, I have to now figure out the route. Yeah, this one, right? Let me do that. If I make a call on this one, I have to obviously fill some data. And you might see that, okay, let me not actually make a call, but you can see that there is obviously latitude and longitude, right? You have to tell that of which latitude and longitude you wanted to query on. Maybe let's randomly write some latitude and longitude. I don't know what are the possible values of that. I know I'm bad with geography. Maybe let's write 44 and 31. I don't know. Let's simply write it, or maybe, yeah. And if I make a call on this, right, it will simply say that, can you see this? Can you see this? It simply says as invalid API key, right? That simply means you need to also pass a key, right? You also need to pass some sort of authentication with it, right? To prove that, okay, this is a so-and-so person which is trying to get the web there, right? So that is kind of a validation, right? Earlier, you can see we can make a simple call on this every number of times and this can get us the data, right? But some APIs will ask for a simple authentication, right? Again, going back to the bank example, if you try to make a balance check, right, they'll ask you for maybe, your particular some serial number, some key and all, which we don't know internally, right? What happens internally? I'm just giving you an idea, right? They might internally be asking for a key, right, which is already set via our, via our UPI apps and all these other things. So this is it. And you might also have a very interesting question to ask, that why are they protecting a simple damn weather API with a key, right? The answer to that is very simple. See, whenever you query on a weather ka data, right, that weather ka data calculate karne mein and that store karne mein, they require task, right? They require a server cost. They need to bear about a lot of different things. So they don't want, right, people to exploit this, right? Because a number of calls that you will make on this, right? Because if people are constantly querying on this, what will happen is that they'll have to scale up their server. They have to, bear a lot of cost. So they wanted to say that in case you wanted to get the result from us, you need to sign up sign up with us. We'll give you maybe 100 responses or 200 responses a day for free. But if you exceed that limit, right, you have to be charged. So that's why they are asking for a API key. And they'll not give you a response unless and until you'll sign up with them. Right? That is one of the reason that they have added these API keys and all these other stuff. So it's not always that they'll only ask for API key if that data is very secure and all these things. They can also ask you for API key in case they require a heavy cost and they don't want it to use it for free. Some things like that. Okay, that is about it. Now let's talk that how can we use these APIs? How can we hit these APIs via our via our JavaScript files? Because we are not always going to hit the API via browser, right? Because हम यहाँ से hit करेंगे, then we'll receive the data and then we will write it on our JavaScript. No, right? This is not something which we will want. What do we want to do is we wanted to say that maybe if I call on this, right? If I make a call on this, and what I will be doing is I mean I'll write a JavaScript file. In my JavaScript file, if I click on a button of get fact, what should happen is that I should get the fact from this particular API and I should show this fact on my on my HTML file, right? Will not that be very cool that you made on an external system via clicking on a button and your JavaScript did that job for you कि वो उसने बाहर से कहीं से data लाके दिया and the data which it has received, it is now showing it on the screen, right? That will be super cool, right? For the starting, you might just simply say that, sir, what do we do? What the hell are we going to achieve by just putting up some random cat fact on the page? But I'll tell you that is just a starting, right? We are just starting out with some simple cat facts. But if we hit the right API, right, if we get, we'll definitely be working with some really good APIs in the near coming future, right? But it's just a matter that we need to just simply identify APIs that, okay, this is the API, right, which we want to hit on. And then we can get maybe whatever results we wanted to get. Maybe we want to get weather ka result we can get. Again, there is a GitHub ka API available, right? You can just query for the result, right? You can just search for any username. You can hit on that search button, and your application will do a search on GitHub ka domain on your behalf and will give you the results of all the possible candidates regarding their usernames, right? Or regarding their organization name, and a lot of things you can do, right? So we'll just start with that. And in this class, we are here to discuss that how your JavaScript application can do that. Right now, I know, it's 9:30 and I went to that particular zone now. What are we doing? What interesting stuff we are doing? Because in just these 20-30 minutes, I was just talking more about API and all these other things than actually coding it. Okay, so this is the thing, and this is where the code will begin. So I'll just do one thing. I'll just create a new folder and I'll just be calling this as an API, and I'll just open it with my VS Code. Great. In this, I'm going to be creating a script.js file, and let's also create an HTML file. And let's see कि इससे करते कैसे, right? How do we actually call an API via this? And before we actually call an API, we will also have to discuss the possible problems we could face, right? And how we'll also discuss about the concepts that are required into making that possible. Okay. So what I've done is I've just added a script file, and inside script file, what I will do is assume karo for the minute, right? That I have written something like that. Maybe I've written let data, and this is maybe a function, okay, that gets the data to me, and then I'm trying to log the data, right? I hope all of you have seen this. What will happen? Agar maan lo, if this is a synchronous function, right? If this is a function that I've already defined somewhere, for a minute, let's see that. Maybe let's say that function get data, and that simply returns return maybe what? It simply return RETURN. Oops, sorry, just a second. Syntax was wrong. It simply returns an object that says name equals to ABC and age equals to 20, something like that. Sorry guys, I think someone please don't do things like that in class. That definitely is not a good thing. Anyways, I think that might have happened by a mistake. Anyways, right, so what I've just done is I've just written a function get data, and that is just returning something, right? If I make a call on this, and if I just try to log whatever it's doing, so what will happen? I hope all of you can tell me what is going to happen. Is that, just a second, let's open the console area, and all of you can see object, right? Can you see this? Name and age, exactly whatever we pass from there is getting printed, right? This is making sense. What happened? I called a function, that function was returning something, and those function ne return kiya, that I printed, right? I called a function that returned the data, I collected it, and then I printed it, right? No, any problems till this point? I don't think that any problem should be there. But now the question arises is that this is an internal function, right? A function मुझे यहीं से data लाके दे रहा था. This function was just getting me the data via an internal function. But do you think that if I had made this API call, would it behave exactly the same way? Can I still be able to write this, and will this still be give me the data? Don't worry about how can we get the data, right, from an API, but just think about one thing and just keep in mind about the asynchronous nature of JavaScript also, right? What possible error do you think will happen if I just try to make it this simple way? Just think of it, and by the time you're thinking, let me just simulate it, right? And let me just simulate it. In form of a API response. And let's see what will happen now. Can you see this? I hope you figured out the problem now. Can you see this? What happened? Yes, obviously, right? Why will it print undefined? Can anyone give me an answer for that? We have discussed this in the last class. See, now it has become a asynchronous function, right? Because again, not because this is a set timeout. Obviously, right now it is a set timeout. That's why. But जब भी अपन network call लगाते हैं, right? I've told you this in the last class also. Whenever we make a call on external system, we always take it as an asynchronous call, asynchronous function. Why do we do that? Because obviously that is bound to delay, right? Whenever you make a call on any external system, that will definitely take some seconds, some microseconds, some millisecond, doesn't matter. However that external server fast, however fast that external server is, right? Kitna bhi fast ho server ho, that is obviously going to be treated as an asynchronous function. So whenever you write this, what is going to happen is that this line number 7 is going to be behave like is going to be pushed to this whole callback queue and all these other things, like, yeah, ये callback queue में तब चला जाएगा, and this line is going to be ignored by the JavaScript at the time being. In the normal functionality, JavaScript will totally avoid this line and it will move to the next line without waiting for this line to fully execute and to fully get the data, right? इस line का output आया भी नहीं होगा, JavaScript will directly move to the line number 8. I hope now making sense to everyone. Now I'm speaking some sense, right? And I hope you all know why is it happening, because in the last class we have had a thorough discussion on that, why JavaScript will kind of avoid this and why it would move to the next line and what JavaScript will do to that. Okay. Now, but if we do it like this way, then isn't not this going to have a problem? I mean, is not like, won't we have some problem about this? Because obviously we expected that data will arrive and we'll do some operation on data. डेटा आएगा तो हम उसको लॉक कर देंगे या फिर डेटा के ऊपर आइटरेट करेंगे और डेटा के ऊपर विल जस्ट डू सम अदर ऑपरेशन. But by the time data is getting populated, all these other operation on data are already done, right? We have done console log data. We might also do data.for each. We'll also do data.map and all these other things we could do, right? But all of them are going to fail because data is not arrived. Data has not been right. Data आया ही नहीं है, right? So this is a problem, right? Which we need to tackle and which we need to look into. That how can we solve this problem? And once we have an answer that okay, this is a way how we tackle them, then we can actually make a call on API and then we can collect the data, right? Yes, we'll be using all these. Yeah, we'll be using await keyword. We'll be also be using callbacks. We'll also be using dot then and dot catch. Right now, let's talk about facts. I mean, not facts. Let's talk about the resolution of that. The thing that can resolve this, there are like multiple ways of resolving it. Right. First thing which we used to do earlier is basically it's a callback thing, right? Callback function we can do. Right. So what is a callback function? Callback function is basically, right? Callback function, I hope in map, filter and reduce wale discussion mein, I might have told you something about this, right? ARR dot map. Again, let it be whatever it is. Okay. In that we do what? We write a this. We write a callback function, right? Sorry. We write something like this. Yes or no? In which I told you that map mein kya hoga? Whenever your item, whenever any element, I mean, whenever something like that. I don't know what is happening. Things are there on my head, but I'm not able to express it. But anyways, right? So basically, what happens is that if these are numbers, right, of an array, what happens is that एक एक करके when things are iterating, right? When your map function is iterating on them, for each element it runs this function, right? It runs this callback function. So what can we say is callback is basically जब आपका एक map चलेगा उसके ऊपर वो इन functions को run करेगा, right? It will run that on top of this. So callback function को you can just assume it this way कि when this function is completed, when data will arrive, then only I'll try to print it, right? This is what I want. This is what I meant by a callback function. So instead of doing it this way, can't we just attach it as a callback कि भाई जब data will arrive, then only just log this statement? Don't you think that should happen? When data will arrive, then only I'll just call this function. Let me tell you what I wanted to say. I'm just saying that again, this might sound totally ridiculous to you that what I'm writing and all these things, but main thing that which I just wanted to show you is that now what I will do over here is that I'm just going to say data is here, something like that. Okay. So what is now going to happen is that that as soon as this get data function will run, right? Once the data function is done, only then only you will see this data is here ka function, right? And so let me comment that out. Again, this has nothing to do with the API response. I'm just giving you just a second, reload it once again. See, wait, it's waiting. And as soon as this data was received after 2 seconds, right, then only you have received this thing, right? So that is one thing called as callback, right? You will run this function only when your answer is prepared, right? Only when this function will return something, tabhi aap is function ko run karoge. That is something called as a callback function, right? Is it making some sense? I'm not sure how much sense it would have made. Again, please don't worry about this callback, what I've written and I've called internally for callback. Don't worry about any of this thing. Just the crux of this is that whenever you run this get data function, you internally pass another function inside this. Okay? आपने इसके अंदर एक छोटा सा function और pass कर दिया, and that function you have passed inside it because you wanted to run this function only when this get data will return an answer, right? अगर आप इसको बाहर function को return कर देते, if you would have called it like this way, what would have happened is, I hope you know this, you can run a function like this also, right? But what would have happened inside this is that data aaya ho ya na aaya ho, it will still run that function, right? Okay, I think ऐसे करेंगे तब तो चल ही जाएगा. Why it should work as an iffy, but why it is not working as an iffy? All right, just a second. Not a function declaration, but in case, not like this way, but like if you write it this way, right? Even if you write it this way, so what will happen is that doesn't matter if the data will arrive or not, आपका console log statement हर बार चलेगा. But I don't want to do it this way. I wanted to say that जब मेरा data आएगा तभी मुझे ये log statement चलाना है. I only wanted to log this. I only wanted to run this log statement only when the data is arriving. So what you can do in that sense is that you can simply write this inside it as a callback function, and once this data function is completed, then only this will run. Right? That is one thing called as a callback thing, right? And that we can also do with APIs, but that is not at all, what is it? It is not at all prescribed, right? So what we do is we work with promises, right? Again, promises is one of the other hot topics in the whole JavaScript ka scenario, which we are about to discuss. Any problems with callbacks now? Till this point. Could you give a real life example? Is this, see, real life example is this, right? Array.map. In this, I've told you, right? Ki callback mein aap kya karte ho? For every iteration, whenever iteration is happening on an element, right? When you iterate on this first element, then you iterate on the second element, then you iterate on third, and then you iterate on fourth, right? As soon as the iteration is happening, then every time this function is running. That is just an example of a callback function, isn't it? And one example, I've just written it over here, right? मैंने यहाँ पे callback function as a parameter में वो किया. I just accepted a function into callback, into arguments. And as soon as this set timeout is running, इसी के time पे I've run a callback function, right? Which internally was doing what? कि जैसे ही मैं यहाँ पे function call कर रहा हूँ, वो तभी trigger होगा जब मेरा ये 2000 second पूरा हो जाएगा, right? If you look into this definition of this callback function. Right? All right, cool. So that is one way, right? But there are other ways also, right? And the other ways include one thing called as promises. Now, in promises, what happens is that, let's first of all, if I just normally talk about promises, right? What do you understand with this term promises? I'm sure all of you are able to relate to normal, like day-to-day promises, whatever we use, right? Promise is basically kind of a, now how do I explain a promise in normal life? Is basically is kind of a I mean, it is an object, right? If I just have to explain in technical terms, it is just an object, right, which can return the result of any asynchronous operation, right? Suppose करो आपने किसी को promise किया that okay, I'm going to tell you the answers in the exams, right? आपने बोला भाई तू चिंता मत कर, I'm going to tell you answers in the exam, right? So that is a promise that that you have made, right? Now there could be different stages of your promises, right? first stage could be that okay, you have resolved a promise. Resolved a promise means that कि आपने जो promise किया था, whatever you have promised, you have just resolved it. आपने उसको answer बता दिया, right? Second state could be that you have rejected the promise, right? Rejected the promise means that you told that you'll tell him the answers, but you didn't take, right? You said कि मुझे आता नहीं, and you just did all of your paper, right? That is a rejected state of a promise, right? Again, there is a third state also that is called as pending stage, right? मान लो जैसे आप एग्जाम में गए, unless and until you said like चल आधे घंटे बाद बताऊंगा, let me first of all write my own sheet, right? That half an hour is what? That is a pending state, right? Pending state मतलब no, neither the promise is rejected nor it is not it is resolved, right? That is still in processing phase, right? Again, let's resolve it. I mean, let's relate it with the API example. When you made a call on an API, right? When you made a call on maybe Paytm ka server, right? Or maybe PVR ka server, and you ask that, okay, I want you to book this ticket, right? So unless that server is processing, right? Until the server is processing, जब तक वो server process कर रहा है, that stage is what? That stage is a pending stage, right? Your promise is still in pending state, right? As soon as it has returned in positive answer, right? Okay, your ticket is successfully booked. What is that state? That is a resolved state, right? And as soon as it has returned a negative response, that is okay, your server is not working, or I cannot book a ticket of yours, something like that. That is what? That is a rejected state. Okay, so whenever we make a call on APIs, right, it returns a promise, right? Let's also try to get this promises in JavaScript. Yeah, just a second. No, not this. Not a proxy, not a proxy. It's basically an object, right? Which I've told you. Handle, see, it says that it used to handle asynchronous operation. Whatever, I just given you a very, crux about promises is that it is an object which gives you result of an asynchronous call, right? अगर आपने एक asynchronous call किया है, so उसका result it will give you, and it is a sort of special object, right? एक object ही होता है अपने आप में. And what could be the different stages? What could be different sort of results? It could be rejected, it could be resolved, it could be pending. That's it, right? That is basically a promise. More about promises, right? You can definitely read. I'll even share. I think we might have shared resources about promises also. The technical definition about that you can read from there. But I hope a little, analogy and where and how we can use this promise is making some sense to you, right? Now let's try to use this information about promise, and let's try to make a call on API, right? So for a minute, I'm also just removing it because these might look thoda sa complicated if I just try to simulate all of these examples. So what I will be doing now is, I'll be making a call on this API, right? What's that API? Yeah. Okay, let's get this one only. Yeah. So if this is an endpoint, right, which I have to make a call on this, right? So how am I going to make a call on this is that there are different internal function as well as third party function which you can use to make a call on this, right? I have shown you कि आप browser से कैसे call लगा सकते हो, but if you have to make a call via JavaScript, right, in your function, what you have to do is there is a function called as fetch, right? There is a function called as fetch. Inside this, if you write the URL where you want to fetch, I mean from where you want to fetch the result, right? आपको fetch लिखना है, then you have to write the URL from where you want to get the data, right? Once you write this, what will happen is that now this fetch is going to return a promise to you, right? Let me do one thing. Let me try to log this, ठीक है? अगर मैं इसको log करूंगा, what do you think will happen? Will this result us this thing? ये हमको ये पूरा response result करेगा, log कराएगा? Will this return anything else, or what do you think should it print on my console? I told you fetch is an inbuilt function which helps you to make any API call via JavaScript file. So if I make a fetch call, if I make a fetch call via on a particular URL, what do you think should appear on my console? Okay, no. See, I told you one thing, right? What I told you? I told you that it returns a promise, isn't it? Can you see this? A promise is written, and as you can see, it is okay where it is. Okay, they might have written object or not. Okay, see, come on. Yeah, can you see this? There is something written as object, right? Again, I'm telling this it is an object, right? Because I know this it is an object and it has a prototype of object. Again, don't worry about prototype, but let me tell you this is an object, right? You can take my words for the minute that promise is internally an object, right? That is why it has a prototype of an object, right? So it is proven that okay, it is an object, and this was earlier in a pending state. Why it was in a pending state? Because obviously when you make a call and you directly put it, it will obviously be in a pending stage, right? Because you might made a call on this, but it was still processing it. It had printed a pending state, right? So the answer is very, very clear that acha, ek cheez aur. We talked about callbacks, right? We talked about कि if we make a call on this and then we attach a callback, तो जब वो API पे call लगेगा तभी वो callback चलेगा. But callback is not a good way of handling, right? That's why promises were introduced. And promises is a much easier and yet foolproof way of collecting the data via APIs. And fetch is a function that returns a promise whenever you make a call on API, right? So if that returns a promise, right? But we don't want it to see the promise. What do we want it to see is we want it to see the data, right? Promise देख के हमको क्या करना है? The only thing we are interested into is how can we freakingly see the data, right? So now the discussion comes around that okay, promise समझ में आ गया कि whenever you make a asynchronous call and that could even reject, that could even resolve, that could be in a pending state. तो उन pending state से जब resolve होगा या reject होगा, whatever it is the final outcome, how can we read that result? How can we see that okay, if the data got resolved, what is the output then? If the data got rejected, what is the output then? Right? This is our next concern, right? Till this point, if all of it is making sense, right? If whenever we make a call on APIs, it returns a promise. Promise could be of different stages: resolved, rejected, and pending, etc., etc., something. But we are interested into seeing the data, final outcome of that, and how can we see those data, or how can we handle these promises? This is the next concern. No, you cannot say it's like a scraping. Scraping is basically, you are you're basically going to sites and you are, kind of, scraping their data. Scraping their data is basically, going to website and trying to collect that data. But API is, is basically a way via which data is easily accessible to you, right? Scraping is definitely something else. Huh, yes, I can use Hindi in, acha, let me quickly, yeah, sure. Sure. Okay, let's do that. ठीक है, चलो. Let me quickly run through all of this into Hindi one more time. ठीक है. So main चीज API में I hope सबको समझ में आ ही गया होगा कि एक चैनल है बेसिकली जहां से आप डेटा कलेक्ट कर सकते हो, राइट? तो अभी समझना हमको ये कि अगर मान लो आपको डेटा कलेक्ट करना है, राइट? तो जो एपीआई का एंड पॉइंट होता है, फिर जो जहां से हम डेटा कलेक्ट कर सकते हैं, दैट बेसिकली लुक्स लाइक मतलब वो बिल्कुल ऐसा दिखता है आपको, एक मतलब यूआरएल की तरह दिखता है, राइट? आप इससे ब्राउजर पे जाके हिट करोगे ना तो आपको डेटा मिल जाएगा. बट प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आप हर बार अगर अपनी एप्लीकेशन में डेटा लेना चाहते हो तो आप ब्राउजर पे हिट करके वहां से डेटा लोगे एंड उसको अपने जावास्क्रिप्ट में डालोगे. वो एक अच्छा सोल्यूशन नहीं है, राइट? बिकॉज जब आप बटन पे क्लिक करोगे तब चाहते हो आप कि इंटरनली इस पे कॉल लग जाए एंड इसका जो भी डेटा है वो आप अपने सिस्टम पे दिखा पाओ, राइट? वो आप अपने फ्रंट एंड पे दिखा पाओ. ठीक है. तो अब हमको ये समझना है कि जो ये चीजें हैं, राइट, जो एसिंक्रोनस कॉल हम लगा रहे हैं, ये चीज हम अपने जावास्क्रिप्ट फाइल्स में कैसे ला सकते हैं, राइट? इससे पहले कि हम लोग इस पे जाते हैं कि हम एपीआई पे कैसे कॉल लगा रहे हैं, मैंने आपको एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल दिया कि मान लो अगर आप कोई एसिंक्रोनस फंक्शन रन कर रहे हो, जैसे कि ये गेट डेटा का फंक्शन है, राइट? अगर ये नॉर्मल फंक्शन होता और आपने लिखा होता लेट डेटा इक्वल्स टू गेट डेटा एंड नेक्स्ट लाइन में अगर आप लिखते कंसोल लॉग डेटा, राइट? तो उस केस में क्या होता? आपने फंक्शन को कॉल किया, फंक्शन ने इमीडिएटली आपको रिजल्ट दिया, आपने उसको नेक्स्ट लाइन में प्रिंट कर दिया, राइट? क्योंकि वो एक नॉर्मल फंक्शन था. बट अज्यूम करो वो एक एसिंक्रोनस फंक्शन बन जाता है अब, एंड वो फंक्शन जब आप कॉल करते हो तो इमीडिएटली आपको डेटा नहीं देता, राइट? वो बहुत छोटा सा डिले लगाता है, पर वो डिले लगाता है डेटा देने में, राइट? एंड इमीडिएटली नेक्स्ट लाइन में अगर आप डेटा को प्रिंट करोगे तो क्या होगा? ऑब्वियसली अनडिफाइंड आएगा, राइट? बिकॉज ये तो एसिंक्रोनस था, जावास्क्रिप्ट ने इसको तो साइड कर दिया कि भाई तेरे को तो बाद में देखते हैं. बट नेक्स्ट लाइन इस फंक्शन के आउटपुट पे डिपेंड करती थी, राइट? ये फंक्शन ने जो आउटपुट दिया था उससे हमें नीचे 2-4 ऑपरेशन करने थे. तो प्रॉब्लम क्या होगी? वो सारे जो 2-4 ऑपरेशन नीचे होने थे वो सारे भी रुक जाएंगे. आई मीन वो सारे भी गलत आंसर देंगे या फिर वो चलेंगे नहीं सही से, राइट? बिकॉज इससे डेटा आता तो वो चल जाते, बट इससे डेटा आना था तो जावास्क्रिप्ट ने उसको साइड में कर दिया, राइट, बिकॉज दैट वाज अ एसिंक्रोनस फंक्शन, राइट, इतना समझ में आया? तो ऐसी चीजों पे, राइट, बिकॉज हमने तो अभी एक सिमुलेट किया कि अगर हम सेट टाइम आउट फंक्शन लगाएंगे तो, बट ऑब्वियसली वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट एपीआई, राइट, हम एपीआई की बात कर रहे हैं, तो एपीआई ऑब्वियसली इज गोइंग टू बी एसिंक्रोनस फंक्शन, एपीआई एसिंक्रोनस फंक्शन ही होने वाला है। आप थर्ड पार्टी किसी पे कॉल लगाओगे तो ऑब्वियसली वो कुछ ना कुछ डिले तो लेगा आंसर देने में आपको। तो अगर आप एपीआई पे कॉल लगाओगे और उस एपीआई के रिजल्ट को आप अपने पेज में दिखाना चाहते हो या फिर आप उससे और फंक्शन करना चाहते हो उसके ऊपर, तो अगर आप नॉर्मल तरीके से करोगे कि आपने फंक्शन कॉल लगा दिया एपीआई पे और आपने उसका डेटा को ऐसे ऐसे लिख दिया, तो हमेशा ये प्रॉब्लम आएगी कि आपका डेटा आएगा नहीं और उससे नीचे जो भी आपने फंक्शन उस डेटा पे किया होगा कुछ नहीं चलेगा, राइट? प्रॉब्लम समझ में आ रही है सबको? ठीक है, अभी आई होप सबको समझ में आ रहा है, बिकॉज आई नो, राइट, आई टोल्ड यू थोड़ा बहुत आई वाज आल्सो वेरी वेरी फास्ट, आई डोंट नो व्हाई। यस, कूल। सो अभी इसको रिजॉल्व करने के मल्टीपल तरीके हो सकते हैं, राइट? पहला एग्जांपल जो मैंने आपको दिया दैट वाज कॉल बैक्स, ठीक है? कॉल बैक क्या होता है कि आप इस जो आपने एसिंक्रोनस कॉल लगाई है उसी के अंदर आप एक फंक्शन लिखो, ठीक है, एंड आप ये बोलो कि जब ये एसिंक्रोनस कॉल लग जाएगी, राइट, जब डेटा आएगा उसी के बाद उसको प्रिंट कराना। आई डोंट वांट कि आप उसके बाद नेक्स्ट लाइन में प्रिंट कराओ, जब ये फंक्शन पूरा चलेगा उसी के बाद वो कॉल आई मीन उसी के बाद वो प्रिंट वाली स्टेटमेंट चलनी चाहिए, तो आप इसके अंदर जाके लिख दो ऐसे करके, दैट इज सॉर्ट ऑफ अ कॉल बैक, ठीक है? इसके अंदर आप लिख दो console log अगेन, ठीक है, जो भी आप इसके अंदर लिखो console log, तो ये console log वाली स्टेटमेंट तभी चलेगी जब आपका गेट डेटा का फंक्शन पूरा चल जाएगा, नहीं? तो ये तो बहुत अच्छी चीज है, बट प्रॉब्लम कॉल बैक्स में क्या होती है कि कॉल बैक हेल बन जाता है। कॉल बैक हेल बोलने का मतलब है आप को बहुत सारी लाइन चलानी होंगी एक फंक्शन के अंदर, जब डेटा आएगा तो एक के नीचे एक के नीचे एक, वो मतलब एक पूरी ऐसे बहुत बड़ी लेटर बन जाती है उसकी, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाई कॉल बैक को इट्स नॉट जनरली प्रेफर्ड। अगेन, जब हम मॉडर्न फंक्शन जैसे फेच का या फिर अलग अलग मेथड जैसे हम एपीआई पे कॉल लगाते हैं, जब हम उनका यूज करते हैं तो पॉइंट ये होता है कि दे ऑल सपोर्ट प्रोमिसेस, राइट? प्रोमिसेस इज बेसिकली कॉल बैक का एनहांस वर्जन, आप समझ लो, राइट? तो कॉल बैक्स पे इसीलिए हम इतना कुछ खास डिस्कशन नहीं करें कि हाउ डू वी हैंडल एपीआई रिस्पॉन्सेज वाया कॉल बैक, ठीक है? वी आर ओनली डिस्कसिंग, मतलब हम सिर्फ उसी पे फोकस कर रहे हैं कि जब आप एपीआई कॉल लगाओगे तो आपको जो प्रॉमिस मिलेगा आप उसको कैसे डील करोगे, राइट, ताकि आप डेटा आगे दिखा पाओ। आई होप कॉल बैक में और प्रोमिसेस में आपको डिफरेंस समझ में आ रहा है। कॉल बैक इज बेसिकली आपने एक फंक्शन पे कॉल लगाया, उसके अंदर आपने एक फंक्शन अटैच कर दिया कि भाई जब बाहर वाला फंक्शन चल जाएगा तब आप इंटरनल फंक्शन चला जाना, दैट्स इट। बट प्रोमिसेस इससे कैसे डिफरेंट है? प्रोमिसेस इज बेसिकली जब आप एक एसिंक्रोनस फंक्शन को कॉल करोगे, जब आप एपीआई पे कॉल लगाओगे, प्रोमिसेस इज बेसिकली, राइट, आपको ये रिटर्न करेगा कि जो आपने कॉल लगाया था वो सक्सेस हुआ कि फेल हुआ, ठीक है? अगर सक्सेस हुआ तो आप उसको कैसे डील करोगे, फेल हुआ तो आप कैसे डील करोगे, पेंडिंग होगा तो आप कैसे डील करोगे, समथिंग लाइक दैट, ठीक है? प्रोमिसेस को अगर मैं टेक्निकल वे में आपको बताऊंगा तो प्रोमिसेस इज बेसिकली अ स्पेशल ऑब्जेक्ट दैट कंटेन्स रिजल्ट ऑफ अ एसिंक्रोनस कॉल। जो आपने एसिंक्रोनस कॉल लगाई है उसका क्या रिजल्ट आया, दैट इज व्हाट इट कंटेन्स, राइट? हाँ, कॉल बैक्स अगर हम यूज करेंगे तो ऑब्वियसली वो अनडिफाइंड नहीं देगा। व्हाई अनडिफाइंड नहीं देगा? बिकॉज कॉल बैक तो तभी चलेगा ना जब फाइनल बाहर वाले उसका कॉल आएगा। अगर आपने एसिंक्रोनस कॉल दिया है, आई मीन एसिंक्रोनस आपने कॉल किया है, आप उस फंक्शन में तभी घुसोगे जब वो पूरा चल जाएगा, राइट? यू कैन से कि बेसिकली एक्ट एज अ टर्नरी ऑपरेटर, बट आई मीन डायरेक्ट कंपैरिजन तो नहीं होगा, करेक्ट, बट या यू कैन से इन अ सेंस दैट वर्क एज अ टर्नरी ऑपरेटर। एनीवेज, ठीक है, तो आई होप ये समझ में आया ना। अब बात ये आती है कि अगर मैंने आपको ये चीज करके दिखाई थी अभी तक, ये वाली चीज, राइट, कि अगेन एक चीज और हमने इसमें नहीं सीखी इससे पहले कि अब हम ये इन सब मतलब ये सब लाइक बचकाना गेम है, राइट? इट्स बेसिकली हम सेट टाइम आउट लगा के 2 मिनट 2 सेकंड का उसके बाद आंसर रिटर्न करें, हमको लग रहा है कि चलो हमने एपीआई से काम कर लिया, दैट इज ऑल नॉट अ गुड थिंग टू डू। सो अब हम क्या करें, अब हम रियल गेम शुरू कर रहे हैं। रियल गेम इज बेसिकली अब हम असली में एपीआई पे कॉल लगाना चाह रहे हैं, तो मैंने ऊपर का सब हटा दिया है, राइट? मेन थिंग इज बेसिकली अब आपको ये देखना है कि आप एपीआई पे कॉल लगा कैसे सकते हो, राइट? अब यहाँ पे तो आप जाके ब्राउजर में लिखोगे नहीं HTTPS समथिंग समथिंग तो कॉल लग जाएगी, ठीक है? यहाँ पे एक इंटरनल फंक्शन होता है जो हमें इनबिल्ट मिलता है, दैट इज अ फेच फंक्शन, ठीक है? फेच क्या करता है? फेच बोलता है कि मैं आपके बदले का कॉल लगा दूंगा, मैं आपके बदले का आंसर ले आऊंगा, राइट? बट आपको मेरे को यूआरएल पास करना पड़ेगा कि कहाँ पे कॉल लगाना है एंड कहाँ से मेरे को रिस्पॉन्स लेके आना है, राइट? सो फेच लिखो, फेच के अंदर आप सीधा वो यूआरएल डाल दो जहां पे आपको कॉल लगाना है, राइट? दैट इज हाउ इट वर्क्स, ठीक है? बट द मेन थिंग इज दैट इज बेसिकली कि ये फेच जो है ना, ये फेच प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करता है। व्हाई इट इज रिटर्निंग प्रॉमिस इज बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली अगर आप एक एक्सटर्नल कॉल लगा रहे हो तो आपको पता है, राइट, कि आप इसको हैंडल करना चाहते हो। अगर आप हैंडल नहीं करोगे तो यही वाला सीन हो जाएगा, कि आपने फेच लिखा, फेच लिखने के बाद डेटा में कलेक्ट किया, फिर आप कंसोल लॉग डेटा करोगे तो क्या होगा, अनडिफाइंड आएगा, राइट, बिकॉज जब तक आंसर ही नहीं आया तब तक आपने लॉग करा दिया उसको, राइट। तो इस चीज के से बचने के लिए ये प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करता है, राइट, इस चीज से बचाने के लिए प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करता है। एंड अगर मैं इसको लॉक करा के देखूं और मैं आपको श्योर कराना चाहूं कि प्रॉमिस ही रिटर्न करता है, तो ये मैं अभी आपको करा के दिखाया था, अगर मैं इसको लॉक कराऊंगा तो ये मेरे को प्रॉमिस कुछ रिटर्न करता हुआ दिखाई दे रहा है, राइट, दैट इज इंटरनली एन ऑब्जेक्ट, ये इंटरनली एक ऑब्जेक्ट ही है, कहीं तो ये दिखेगा, हाँ ये इंटरनली एक ऑब्जेक्ट है, राइट। बट अगेन प्रॉब्लम यही है कि ठीक है ये प्रॉमिस है, ये ऐसे ऐसे आता है, बट मुझे इससे क्या लेना देना, मेन चीज तो ये है कि इसका डेटा मैं कैसे दिखाऊं अपने स्क्रीन पे, राइट, या फिर मैं कहीं पे भी इसका डेटा कैसे रीड कर पाऊं इस प्रॉमिस का। दिस इज व्हाट इज आवर मेन मेन प्रॉब्लम, राइट। आई होप अभी सबको सारी चीजें इज ऑल मेकिंग सेंस इन अ सीरीज, राइट। ओके, चलो लेट्स मूव अहेड विद दिस नाउ, विद दिस डिस्कशन नाउ, कि ये तो ठीक है, बट हाउ डू वी हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू हैंडल दिस। सो टू डू दैट इज वेरी वेरी सिंपल, ठीक है, देयर आर टू वेज हाउ यू कैन डू दैट। फर्स्ट वे इज यूजिंग अ डॉट देन एंड डॉट कैच, ठीक है। अभी आप ऐसे समझो कि मेरे को अगर इसके नीचे मैं सीधा ऐसे लिख देता हूँ, अगेन मैं वही चीज दोबारा करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, अगर मैं इसको ऐसे लिख देता हूँ, ठीक है, एंड इसके बाद में अगर लॉग कराता हूँ डेटा, राइट, व्हाट डू यू थिंक विल हैपन दिस टाइम? कैन यू सी दिस? कैन यू सी दिस? It's still giving a promise, it's not giving you undefined, right? That is why I told you कि जो भी आप मेथड यूज करने वाले उसको एसिंक्रोनस कॉल को वो करने के लिए, वो प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करेंगे तो बेटर रहेगा, बिकॉज वो आपको अनडिफाइंड वाला हाल तो नहीं दे रहे, राइट, वो आपको यहाँ पे अनडिफाइंड तो नहीं रिटर्न करेंगे, वो प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करेंगे, बट स्टिल प्रॉब्लम वही है, प्रॉमिस रिटर्न तो कर रहे हैं बट प्रॉमिस को रिजॉल्व कैसे करो, राइट, प्रॉमिस का डेटा में कैसे रीड करो, right? So in that case, right, there could be multiple ways how you can handle this. The first way is you can use a dot then and dot catch. ये बेसिकली क्या करता है, ये आपका कोड को दो सेगमेंट में डिवाइड कर देता है। इज बेसिकली आई टोल्ड यू, राइट, दो मेजर पॉसिबिलिटी हो सकती है आपके प्रॉमिस की, या तो वो क्या हो जाएगा, या तो वो रिजॉल्व हो जाएगा, या तो वो रिजेक्ट हो जाएगा। रिजॉल्व एंड रिजेक्ट मतलब या तो वो सक्सेसफुल हो जाएगा, अगर आपने कॉल किया है तो बोलेगा बॉस आपने जो कॉल किया था मेरा काम सक्सेसफुल है, वॉट एवर यू जस्ट कॉल्ड, आई एम रिटर्निंग योर पॉजिटिव आंसर, आई एम रिटर्निंग यू विद द रिस्पॉन्स, ठीक है, आप आगे जाके इस पे जो भी करना है करो। या तो बोलेगा बॉस जो आपने कॉल किया या तो मैं चल नहीं रहा हूँ, या तो मेरा मन नहीं आपको आंसर देने का, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क ऑन दैट, ठीक है, तो वो रिजेक्टेड स्टेट हो जाएगा। सो व्हाट यू आर डूइंग इज यू आर जस्ट, आई मीन आई एम श्योर ऑल ऑफ यू हैव सीन ट्राई एंड कैच, राइट, आप एक ऑपरेशन लिखते हो, आप ट्राई में लिखोगे, उसके बाद जो जो भी लिखोगे वो सब चल जाएगा, अगर ट्राई वाला मामला सही रहेगा, अगर उसमें कुछ भी गड़बड़ हुआ तो कैच में चला जाएगा, राइट, सिमिलर टू थिंग वी आर डूइंग राइट नाउ। सो हम क्या बोल रहे हैं, हम डॉट देन अगर लिखेंगे तो इसके अंदर हम जो भी लिखेंगे वो तब चलेगा अगर इसने प्रॉमिस को रिजॉल्व कर दिया होगा तो, राइट, और इसके अंदर अगर ये प्रॉमिस रिजॉल्व नहीं हुआ होगा, रिजेक्ट हुआ होगा, तो वो कैच ब्लॉक में चला जाएगा, राइट। तो ये तो हो गया थोड़ा सा पहला वे, अगेन ये कंप्लीट नहीं है बट आई एम श्योर कि थोड़ा सा ऊपर ऊपर से यू आर गेटिंग आइडिया अबाउट ना, ठीक है ना। डॉट देन भी एक अगेन एक फंक्शन को ही रिसीव करता है, हम इसके अंदर डायरेक्ट चीजें नहीं लिख सकते हैं, ठीक है। इसके अंदर हम लोग मान लो अगर मैं सिर्फ इतना लिख देता हूं कि वी आर इनसाइड देन ब्लॉक, ठीक है, इफ आई जस्ट रन दिस एंड यहाँ पे भी मैं एक फंक्शन लिख के यहाँ पे लॉग लगा देता हूं कि वी आर इनसाइड कैच ब्लॉक, ठीक है। सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक शुड बी द आउटपुट दिस टाइम? अभी आउटपुट क्या होगा हमारी स्क्रीन पे, हमारे कंसोल पे? ऑब्वियसली यू हैव सीन इट, बट आई एम श्योर सबको लग रहा होगा कि वी आर इनसाइड कैच, वी आर इनसाइड देन ब्लॉक। व्हाई वी आर इनसाइड देन ब्लॉक? अगर चलो इफ वी आर इनसाइड देन ब्लॉक व्हाट कैन वी कंक्लूड, हम क्या कंक्लूड कर सकते हैं अगर हम देन ब्लॉक के अंदर है तो? जो हमने कॉल लगाया था वो सक्सेसफुल रहा कि वो फेल हो गया? व्हाट डू यू थिंक? इट इज रिजॉल्व, राइट, तभी तो वो देन ब्लॉक के अंदर आया है, नहीं तो कैच ब्लॉक के अंदर भी जा सकता था। अब एक काम करके देखते हैं, देखो मैं कितनी बार भी रिजॉल्व वो करूंगा, ये वी आर इनसाइड देन ब्लॉक दिखाएगा, ठीक है। अभी एक काम करके देखते हैं, मान लेते हैं ना मैं इसमें कुछ झोल कर देता हूँ, मान लो मैं ये कुछ गड़बड़ कर देता हूँ उसके यूआरएल में, मैं दो तीन चीजें हटा देता हूँ उसमें से, ऐसे कुछ कर देता हूँ, राइट, एंड व्हाट डू यू थिंक विल हैपन नाउ? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो ऑब्वियसली ये राउट गलत है तो वो उसका एरर दे रहा है, ओके, व्हाई इज इट स्टिल सेइंग वी आर इनसाइड कैच ब्लॉक? ओके नहीं, हाँ ऑब्वियसली इट शुड गो से कि वी आर इनसाइड कैच ब्लॉक, ठीक है, बिकॉज वहां पे कुछ एरर आ गया, राइट, या तो यूआरएल गलत है तो कुछ तो गलत है, बट मेन चीज है कि एपीआई ने रिस्पांस नहीं दिया कुछ, अगर एपीआई ने रिस्पांस नहीं दिया तो हम कहां पे जाएंगे, हम कैच ब्लॉक में जाएंगे, राइट, दैट इज व्हाई इट्स सेइंग it says we are inside catch block, right? Because this time it is rejected, right? I hope now you are able to get a little more idea about this now. And एक चीज और बताओ मुझे, unless and until, ठीक है, unless and until या तो resolve नहीं हुआ तो reject नहीं हुआ, तब तक कहाँ जाएगा वो? तब तक कहीं नहीं जाएगा, तब तक वो pending state में रहेगा, नहीं? So अब आपको ये चीज समझ में आ रही है कि अगर आपको API से response लाना था and उस response पे आपको कुछ काम करना था, तो वो आपको कहाँ लिखना पड़ेगा? Where will you write it now? Will you still write it outside here? आप यहाँ पे लिख दोगे सारा काम, या फिर you'll write it specifically under this dot then वाला part. You'll write it under specific dot then part. Why will you do that? Because you know that if you are inside the dot then block, that obviously means that आपका data आ चुका है and now you are ready to do, you are ready to do operation on that, right? Yes, no? Great. So this is one of the way how you can work with API and their responses. ठीक है, अभी ये सारी बकवास बहुत है, अभी हम actually data लेके आते हैं and then let's log it on the console and let's see that what if we are again able to read exactly the same type of data or not, right? So that I'll just have to get back to the basic state of the code. Let me change it back. ठीक है, चलो. Now, अभी मैंने आपको बोला अगर आपका डेटा आता है तो आप देन ब्लॉक में जाते हो, राइट? बट आई एम श्योर सबको एक चीज पता होगा कि अगर आप डॉट देन में जाते हो और आपको ये अगर आप इसके अंदर आए हो तो आप इसके अंदर आए हो तो एक डेटा के साथ आए हो, राइट? ऑब्वियसली कुछ वैल्यू आपके पास होगा. वेयर विल यू पुट इट? यू कैन पुट इट इनसाइड दिस पैरामीटर, राइट? ये आपने उसमें भी देखा होगा, राइट? आई एम श्योर ऑल ऑफ यू रिमेंबर a dot map क्या है. What the hell? Just a second. So अगर आपने map function अगर आपको याद होगा तो I hope all of you remember it by this way. इसके अंदर भी write item, right? And item was what? Item was basically that iterator जिस time पे है. अगर हम पहले 1 पे हैं तो वो 1 contain करेगा item, फिर हम 2 पे हैं तो it would contain 2, फिर 3 पे हैं तो 3 contain करेगा, something like that, right? So it is basically when we are inside their dot then part, right? What value we have received, this is what we can pass over here in the callback function, in the callback parameter, right? So maybe let's say that we can say res, right? Let's for the minute say कि हम response के साथ आए हैं, whatever we made a call on this, तो इसके बाद जो हमको data मिला है, that we are representing using a res. Again, that's totally your choice. I can write my name also, I can write Riddhi also, right? In case I feel like doing so. So मैं रिद्धि लिख देता हूँ and मैं यहाँ पे लॉक कराने की कोशिश करता हूँ that what I actually received, right? Let's see what I actually received from there, right? So let's go back and where is it? Yeah, there it is. What happened? Oh shit, sorry, I have to comment that out. And yes, can you see this? That's lovely, right? That says response, type calls, URL and this and this and that, status 200, okay, and all these other things, right? So that means we are receiving something at least, right? हम खाली हाथ तो नहीं आ रहे, but we are receiving something. Can you see this? Yes, right? It receives something. It says we have got something. See, Pawan, I think you must have थोड़ा सा confusion with callbacks now. मतलब जब आप dot then में घुसे हो, right? And if you will say that कि dot then के अंदर एक function एक what do you say dot then के अंदर एक function run होता है, right? अगर आप इसके अंदर जाते हो तो you have to make a basic function जो ये चीज contain करता है. So इसके अंदर जब आप यहाँ पे जाते हो तो obviously have some data, right? अगर आपने fetch पे successful call लगाया होगा तो कुछ आपको data मिला होगा, right? अगर call लगा भी और नॉन सक्सेसफुल कॉल हुआ है, मतलब रिजेक्ट हुआ है तो भी एक रिस्पॉन्स के साथ रिजेक्ट हुआ होगा, राइट? कि सो एंड सो एरर है या फिर मान लो इंटरनल सर्वर एरर है या फिर कुछ और एरर है. तो इन बोथ ऑफ द केसेस यू मस्ट रिसीव सम ऑब्जेक्ट, यू मस्ट हैव रिसीव्ड सम वेरिएबल, राइट? सो वो जो वैल्यू है यू रिसीव इट इन दिस पैरामीटर, राइट? एंड इट्स नॉट लाइक कि ये आपको अलग से पैरामीटर पास करना पड़ेगा, ये इंटरनली पास होता है, राइट? And you can take whatever name, but generally response is basically kind of a standard one, but just in case you feel like a response already यहाँ पे लिखना ही होता है, that's why I have chosen my name to write, right? This is how it basically works, right? Yes, you can say it is an object, yeah, because obviously it is. See, can you see this curly braces, right? This is an object only. And अच्छा एक चीज और मैं बताता हूँ आपको, that might be kind of a little bouncer for you for the minute, but एक चीज और सुनना, whenever we make a API से जब हम बातचीत कर रहे होते हैं, whenever we communicate via APIs, right? you don't actually communicate with objects, right? Now this might be very triggering for most of you that sir abhi to bol rahe ho object hai, abhi bol rahe ho object nahi hai. Is basically objects are too heavy to be to be used in communication. जब आप communication करते हो ना, whenever you are communicating, right? So assume it like this way कि अगर मेरे घर में एक टेबल है, राइट, दैट इज प्रॉपर्ली असेंबल्ड, मैंने आइकिया से टेबल लिया एंड दैट इज प्रॉपर्ली असेंबल्ड, ठीक है। अभी मुझे उसको लेके मे बी अपने रूम में शिफ्ट होना है, फिर मुझे अपने घर जाना है, वही टेबल रोज रोज घुमाना है, राइट। सो दैट इज टू हेवी टू बी ट्रांसपोर्टेड डेली। सो व्हाट आई विल डू इज आई कॉम्पैक्ट इट, राइट। आई कॉम्पैक्ट इट व्हाई, मैं उसके उसके लेग्स अलग कर दूंगा, जो भी उसका ड्रॉर है वो सारी चीजें अलग कर दूंगा, ऑल ऑफ दैट थिंग, राइट। आई ट्राई टू मेक इट मोर कॉम्पैक्ट बिकॉज मेरे को उसको रोज लेके घूमना है, राइट। सो सिमिलरली जब हम डेटा कम्युनिकेट करते हैं ना, तो होता वो ऑब्जेक्ट है, बट हम उसको जेसॉन में ट्रेवल कराते हैं, बिकॉज जेसॉन इज अगेन it stands for JavaScript object notation. मतलब वो दिखता ऑब्जेक्ट की तरह है, बट इंटरनली पूरा ऑब्जेक्ट होता नहीं, right? I'll not talk much about JSON now because else that will still create confusion. Main thing is, yeah, we can say it is an object, but API से response generally it appears in JSON, right? It's not pure object, but it is a JSON, right? अरे see, why would we got Riddhi? Riddhi is a variable, na? Riddhi will contain something. Again, I should not use my name because that is too confusing. You can just say response, right? We're just showing it because in case you'll feel like response ही लिखना होता है हमेशा, right? I don't want you to feel that. That's why I've chosen my name, a different variable, to just simulate that. Okay? Just a second. What happened? Yeah. So I hope abhi it is making some sense now. Yeah, JSON is basically JavaScript object notation. Yeah. Again, and let's not focus much on JSON. Again, if you are very curious, you can definitely read about JSON. But abhi ke liye, let's not focus on JSON. Let's focus on this whole promise resolution stuff. But I'm telling you कि जब हम API से communication करते हैं, generally we receive the data in JSON format. In case this, let me tell you, this is also JSON, right? And why? अच्छा, एक और चीज, let me tell you, this look like an object to you? Yes or no? Object है कि नहीं है? Object का क्या property होता है? It has key value. It is key. It is value. It is key. It is value. That is separated by a comma. That is separated by a comma. That starts with this curly braces. That starts with the curly braces, right? Then how can you differentiate here? ये object नहीं है, JSON है. Can any one of you distinguish between this? कि object नहीं है, JSON है. कैसे पता लग रहा है? Come on. Very, very, very minute thing is there only. Yes. That key is also surrounded by this quotes, right? So JSON का यही एक like एक add-on आप समझ लो JavaScript के I mean JavaScript object के ऊपर यही एक add-on है कि JavaScript के object में आप इसको नहीं कोड करते हो, right? You don't code this into your JavaScript object, but while writing JSONs, you code this also, right? So that is just a main thing. That's why I told you it looks very similar to an object, but it is not an object, right? But what happens is, देखो अभी एक ऐसे समझो, मान लो, अगेन आई डोंट नो व्हाई आई एम गोइंग मच इनटू स्ट्रेंज थिंग्स, राइट, बट मेन थिंग आप ऐसे समझ लो कि जब आप जेसॉन से ट्रांसलेट, आई मीन जब आप जेसॉन, वही वाला एग्जांपल, अगर मैं टेबल को कम्युनिकेट, आई मीन टेबल को ट्रेवल कराना चाहता हूं अपने घर से किसी और जगह पे, तो मैं उसको कॉम्पैक्ट वे में भेजूंगा, बट जब मेरी टेबल दूसरी जगह पहुंच जाएगी, व्हाट आई विल डू इज आई विल रीअसेंबल दैट टेबल, राइट, और इन माय ओन होम माय टेबल इज असेंबल्ड, राइट। सो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इज दैट आप भेजोगे डेटा जेसॉन में, बट वहां जाके आप उसको ऑब्जेक्ट में कन्वर्ट कर लोगे, right? That is basically, you might have heard of json.parse, json.stringify वगैरह वगैरह. So वो सारे function उस जगह पे काम में आते हैं. Again, don't worry much about this now. We'll be working with the same stuff and same all logic into React.js also. Therein you can, you know, see that functionality. हम क्या json stringify क्यों कर रहे हैं, json parse वगैरह क्यों कर रहे हैं, right? Yeah, that's, see, I told you, right? JavaScript is too much of a deal, and you can, you know, practically learn new thing about JavaScript every single day. I've been doing that from past 2+ years. I've still been discovering and learning new things about JavaScript, right? So that's the beauty of it. Cool. Now, coming back to the main discussion, I don't know why today I'm, you know, getting away from the discussion of the main discussion, right? And I'm slipping into much more discussion. But anyways, ठीक है, तो ये चीज तो हम ने समझ लिया कि यहाँ पे response तो आ रहा है, but main thing is that are we actually getting the data or are we getting the response? The thing is that we are getting the response, we are not getting the data, right? हमको इसके अंदर जो ऐसे डेटा आ रहा था, हमने किस पे कॉल लगाया, इस पे कॉल लगा, right? तो इस पे तो ऐसा डेटा आ रहा था, राइट? वी वर रिसीविंग डेटा लाइक दिस, पेज नंबर, पेज टोटल डेटा, समथिंग समथिंग. बट व्हाई वी आर नॉट सीइंग दिस? इंस्टेड वी आर सीइंग कोड्स this and that, status code is this and etc etc. Why we are seeing this, right? The answer to that is ये जो data है, it's basically अगर आपको इसको what do you want the data as in you don't want response, you want the data, right? ये अभी हमको response मिला है. So how can you get this is there is something called as, you have to convert this into JSON, right? You have to convert this into response.json, right? And एक मिनट, let me show you this one also. अगर आप इसको लॉक कराओगे ना, इसका JSON, तो you'll see again, you'll still not receive it. Can you see this? It still says promise. Can you see this? It still says promise. Because जो आपको रिस्पॉन्स मिला है एपीआई से, उसको रीडेबल डेटा में कन्वर्ट करने के लिए भी यू नीड टू कॉल दिस फंक्शन, एंड दिस फंक्शन आल्सो रिटर्न्स अ प्रॉमिस. मतलब जो आपने अभी तक रिस्पॉन्स कलेक्ट किया था ना, उसमें से मीनिंगफुल डेटा अगर आपको एक्सट्रैक्ट करना है, दैट विल आल्सो कॉल फॉर एन asynchronous फंक्शन, दैट इज response.json, right? But now you know this. If this is a promise, how do you handle this? If this is a promise, how are you going to handle this? You're going to handle this via, obviously, dot then dot catch, isn't it? Obviously, right? So what are we going to do is, I'm not going to write this over here. Instead, I'm going to just write it response.json again. Okay. अभी एक चीज मुझे बताओ, ठीक है? Again, this is one of the very very common thing which I have seen people asking, right? When I just write it, I see many people questioning this, sir. Why is it written like that way? Why can't we do it this way and that way? Just a minute. And trust me, I was also one of them, right? Who used to think, ठीक है ऐसे लिखते होंगे शायद, ठीक है? So if I have to return, if I have to write dot then and dot catch on this, what do you think? Where should I write it? Should I write it there, or should I write it there? What do you think is the correct way? Is this the correct one, or is this the correct one? Come on, take a guess. Oh shit! Oh shit! It's 10:17 already. I didn't even realize. So let's. I hope like you don't have problem, right? 10-15 minutes more. We'll be taking this. It's cool, right? Chalo, cool. Shit. Chalo. Anyways, so yeah, the answer to that is not the first one, but the second one. Okay, why is because while talking about, just a second. See, guys, I'm receiving a call back. Right, just a second. Just give me a second, right? Yeah, cool. So as I was saying that, yeah, this is not the correct one. Why? Because while telling about what do you say, arrow functions, I told you कि जब हमने ऐसा लिखा हुआ, see, this is something very very interesting to know, because I've seen many people saying that ये ऐसे होना चाहिए, but when they see syntax like that, they will say that no, this is not correct something. See, why is because जब आपने ये लाइन लिखा है ना, just please listen to this very very carefully. जब आपने ये लाइन लिखा है, do you know what this exactly means? This line exactly, दिस पर्टिकुलर सिलेक्टेड एरिया जो मैंने सिलेक्ट किया है, इसका एग्जैक्ट मतलब पता क्या है? इसका एग्जैक्ट मतलब है कि आपने लिखा है दिस इंटरनल थिंग, ठीक है? एक फंक्शन है जो रिस्पॉन्स लेता है, ठीक है? मैं इसको नॉर्मल ऐसे नॉर्मल फंक्शन में लिखने की कोशिश करता हूँ. एक फंक्शन है जो रिस्पॉन्स लेता है, एक फंक्शन है जो रिस्पॉन्स लेता है, हाँ, एंड वो रिटर्न कर देता है response.json, राइट? एंड व्हाट डू यू थिंक, अगर आपने response.json को यहाँ से रिटर्न कर दिया है एंड ये पूरा फंक्शन है, तो डोंट यू थिंक जो फंक्शन ने रिटर्न किया होगा उसके ऊपर आपको डॉट देन लगाना चाहिए, या फिर जो आप रिटर्न कर रहे हो उस टाइम पे डॉट देन लगाना चाहिए? देखो, सिंपल सी बात ये समझो, जब आप इस फंक्शन को कॉल करोगे, फंक्शन एबीसी मान लेते हैं. अगेन जस्ट अ सेकंड, प्लीज लिसन टू दिस वेरी वेरी केयरफुली, ठीक है? जब आपने एक फंक्शन एबीसी लिखा, जो फंक्शन आपका एक प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करता है, राइट? तो जब आप एबीसी को कहीं कॉल करोगे इस तरीके से, ठीक है, आई डोंट नो व्हाट इट्स दिस, जब आप एबीसी को कॉल करोगे कभी, गॉड व्हाई दिस ऑटो करेक्ट इज, So whenever you call on this abc, what this will return, won't this return, हम इसको इक्वेट करके ऐसा नहीं बोल सकते कि ये हमें हमेशा एक प्रॉमिस रिटर्न कर रहा व्हाटएवर, राइट, ये प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करेगा। तो अगर ये प्रॉमिस रिटर्न कर ही देगा तो इसके ऊपर हम डॉट देन डायरेक्ट नहीं लगा सकते जैसे, कांट वी डू इट लाइक दिस वे, यस और नो, इज इट मेकिंग सेंस नाउ? When assign response to, see, in that case then we will do something else, but let me tell you, see, what we are doing is, जब हम chain करते हैं functions को, right, whenever we are chaining function like that, we have written fetch and that is returning something, right, we want to say that we are running this in a chained way, right, हम लोग इसके अंदर उसको नहीं return कर रहे, हम इसके अंदर उसको run नहीं कर रहे, that's why हम generally आपको ये दिखेगा नहीं मिलता हुआ कि आप इसको इसमें ये कर लो लेट डेटा, ऐसे करोगे तो आपको ऑब्वियसली इसके बाहर नहीं लिखना पड़ेगा, इसके अंदर ही आपको लिखना पड़ेगा, ठीक है, एंड देन आप ऐसे कर सकते हो, ऑब्वियसली यू कैन डू इट दिस वे, ठीक है, देन यू कैन डू इट, बट I have personally not seen people writing it like this way. I've seen people writing it like this way, dot then and dot line करके, right? The reason behind is this only. Again, if you wanted to do like this way, you can do this, but okay, we'll also see writing it this way also, and we will see if that is like if that is 100% correct or not. I have not personally tried it, but we'll try. But I have practically given you the reason why we response.json, why we write it यहाँ पे, why we don't write dot then and why we write it outside, right? Because जब हम एरो फंक्शन में एक सिंपल लाइन रिटर्न, जब हम एक सिंपल लाइन लिखते हैं, दैट सिंपली मींस कि आपने उसको रिटर्न किया है, राइट, एंड इफ यू हैव रिटर्न समथिंग, व्हाट यू डू इज you write this dot then on outer side, you don't write it inside it, right? Now I hope this is making some sense, that why we are writing this outside and why we are not writing this inside here, right? Does that make sense now? Great. Chalo. So if I write it this, if I write it there, again, you know what is going to happen, right? Again, since इसके अंदर भी एक callback function हम receive करते हैं, and that will take argument as कुछ भी आप variable ले लो, and this will contain what? This will contain data जो ये promise resolve होने पे आया होगा, right? अगर response.json resolve हुआ होगा तो उसने जो data दिया होगा, that we can collect in this data variable, right? Again, I think data तो already यहाँ लिखा हुआ है, तो हम यहाँ पे कुछ और लिख लेते हैं, d लिख लेते हैं, right? And let's try to console log this. Console log me, right? Let's see this. What will happen now? And anything else I've written? ये सब हटाना पड़ेगा. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, why undefined? Why undefined? What happened? JSON. Anything did I miss? Dot then response. Response.json. Yeah, now it should work. Yeah, it's working, right? See, एक मैंने जो अभी मिस्टेक किया था is that कि अगर आपने ये लिखा है ना, see, अगर आपने parentheses लगाए हैं, then it has, you also have to write a return keyword. अगर आप parentheses नहीं लगा हुआ, then by default it takes it as a return. Yeah. अभी मैं अगर parentheses लगा के return लिख दूंगा तो exactly same आंसर आएगा ये, right? अगर मैंने parentheses लगाए हैं, that means I have to return it. अगर मैंने parentheses भी नहीं लगाए हैं, that is the shortest way of saying that मैंने जो भी लिखा है इसको मेरे को return करना है. That's it. I know, right? That might still be a little confusing, but you know, this is this is complexities about using arrow function, like different use cases of arrow functions, right? I told you बहुत सारे variation है arrow function लिखने का. Just understand this one. This is this very commonly used one. अगर आपने कुछ इस एरो के बाद आपने सिर्फ एक स्टेटमेंट लिखी है एंड आपने कोई पैरेंथेसिस नहीं लगाया है, what does that mean? That means कि आपने यहाँ से डायरेक्ट रिटर्न कीवर्ड लिखा है, right? That is the simplest shorthand of writing it. And why do we don't write return over here? Because अगर हमको रिटर्न लिखना है तो हमको यहाँ पे ये लगाना पड़ेगा. We have to write this, and then it will equate to this, right? And you know this, what is happening is कि जो जो रिस्पॉन्स इसके पास आया वो हमने रिटर्न किया, एंड सिंस रिस्पॉन्स का जेसॉन हमने करने की कोशिश की थी तो ये भी प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करेगा. प्रॉमिस को हैंडल करना है तो इसके ऊपर हमने डॉट देन चेंज किया है, एंड डॉट देन अगर रिजॉल्व होगा, मतलब अगर जो डेटा आया था उसको जेसॉन कर पाया होगा ये, तो ये हमको डी में आंसर रिटर्न करेगा, और जिसको हम लॉग करा के देखेंगे कि जो डेटा जेसॉन में चेंज हुआ है वो क्या डेटा चेंज हुआ है, राइट? डेटा चेंज होके गया है, which is exactly what we wanted to see, right? आपने देखा होगा ऊपर पेजेस पर पेज का डेटा था उसमें, see pages per pages and total all these data, right? All this data, where was that? All of this is exactly visible over there. अगर आपको सिर्फ array को देखना है, right? If you are only interested into array, you can see what was there. array को exist करने के लिए आपको डॉट इसके ऊपर डेटा मेथड को कॉल करना पड़ेगा, which simply means d.data, right? And if I do this, you will see this thing happening, that tada, you have got the data, you have got all the arrays, and all of the information are there in this manner. And you can also print it on your like HTML page also, right? You know, DOM से आप इसको HTML page पे भी print करा सकते हो. I'm not going that way. I'm just showing this on the console only. You can do this on the page also, right? Or no. All async function might not return a promise, right? जैसे set timeout था, right? That is not returning a promise. I'm telling you that जब हम API पे call लगाते हैं, right? Fetch, exios, all these are methods that are built in to return a promise, right? Why they are built in to return a promise is because obviously if we are calling a method that is calling an API, right? That will make sense to return a promise, right? Because हम उसको handle कर पाएंगे easily. That's why. So fetch is one of the method. Now I'm now I know for sure that ये बहुत confusing लगा होगा, डॉट के अंदर फिर हमने कुछ ने JSON किया and so forth, right? I know for sure that most of you would have still not got it, right? आप दो रिकॉर्डिंग देखोगे तो भी थोड़ा सा चांस है कि आपको फिर भी डाइसी लगेगा, right? That is a very common use. I mean, that is a very common problem, right? I also face the same one while using this one, right? So fetch is a little complicated, right? All of us know this. At the same time, this dot then and dot catch is also very confusing, right? Dot then and dot catch में ये बड़ी like दिक्कत का बात है कि यार आप डॉट देन लिखो, उसके अंदर कॉल बैक लिखो, उसके अंदर ये सब काम करो, right? That is all is a different use case scenario. So अब हम इसको और simplify करने जा रहे हैं, right? I'm just about to simplify this a lot, and you all will say that sir ये simplified था तो आपने ये बताया क्यों? Why we have told this is because this is also one part of that. So instead of doing this dot then and dot catch वाली दिक्कत, what we can simply do is we can do this very short and sweet way, and we can do it like this way, like data equals to, okay, fetch, and इसके अंदर we'll call the same thing, oops, yeah. And this time, right, I'll not be writing this dot then dot catch wala lafda. What I will do is I'll simply do one thing. I'll say that dude, एक काम करो, right? जब आप डेटा लाओगे, whenever you'll be just getting the data, just do this one. Await is simply basically जब आप इस पे, it is basically a way of handling promises now, ठीक है? It's basically जो dot then dot catch कर रहा था, right? It is basically going to do that, right? And I'm going to do what? I'm going to log this. Not console 9, but I'm going to do this now, right? And what do you think? Yeah, I'll share this code also. Oh, just a second. You can, I mean, obviously you can use an async, you can use a await function only inside a async function, right? So that's why I have to call a async function. You have to write this inside a function only. Maybe get a function का नाम. This. Okay. So what I've just done is, oops, just a second. Just wanted to format it. Got it. Okay. So what I've just done is I've just got the data, and I've used a special keyword of await and async, and I've then tried getting the data, right? मैं एक function को run करता हूँ बस, and I'll just show you what I wanted to tell. And can you see this exact same thing जो हमने dot then dot catch करके लिखा था वहाँ पे? Can you see this? Dot then dot catch करके हम exactly ऐसे ही data ला पा रहे थे, right? Course and this, all of this status code and okay, true, something like that, right? I hope all of you remember this, right? Yes or no? Now we are able to do the same thing just by writing one keyword, right? This await and this async, that's it, right? So if I talk about async await is nothing but just kind of a syntactical sugar over dot then dot catch. Dot then and dot catch जो काम करता है exactly async await वही काम करता है, but since dot then and dot catch काफी hectic है लिखने में, right? You have to write dot then, उसके अंदर एक function लिखना है, and so forth चीजें करनी है. So they have simplified this async await. I mean, they have simplified this thing with async await. And अब आपको वो करने की जरूरत नहीं है. And you just have to do it like this way. Right? आप जहां पे एक asynchronous operation कर रहे हो, उसके आगे आप await लिख दो. And this will handle this promise in the same way, just like a dot then and dot catch was doing. Right? एंड उसके बाद आप उसको वैसे ही उन वैल्यूज को वैसे ही डील कर सकते हो जैसे आप नॉर्मली डील करते थे. राइट? अगर आप इसको ये अवेट हटा दोगे तो क्या प्रॉब्लम होगी आपको पता है, अनडिफाइंड आ जाएगा. बट अगर आपको वो दिक्कत हटानी है तो आप क्या कर सकते हो, जस्ट हैव टू राइट अवेट. एंड अवेट लिखने का ना एक आपको ये समझ लो, देयर इज अ लिमिट, आई मीन देयर इज अ पर्टिकुलर कंस्ट्रेंट ऑफ राइटिंग, दैट इज जब भी आपको अवेट कीवर्ड यूज करना होगा, यू हैव टू मेक दिस इनसाइड अ फंक्शन डिक्लेयर्ड विद दिस एसिंक कीवर्ड. दैट्स इट. राइट? दैट इज समथिंग अबाउट दिस. Right, and that's it, right? That's how you can get the data. Again, जब आप ये करोगे, you know, right? आप डेटा को प्रिंट कर रहे हो, but I mean, let's call this response, right? Because earlier we were also calling this as response. ठीक है? Again, you know, आपके पास response है, जो वो value देखना चाहते थे, तो वो values are still not there. How are you going to get that? Can anyone have the answer to this? I mean, have an answer to this? The answer is obviously हम इसको JSON कर सकते हैं, right? We can JSON it like this way. We can say await response.json, राइट? आई होप ऊपर वाले से आपको रिलेट कर पा रहे हो. इससे हमने क्या किया, हमने जब रिस्पॉन्स इससे कलेक्ट किया, राइट, उसको रीडेबल फॉर्मेट में बनाया. हाउ डिड वी क्रिएटेड इट टू अ रीडेबल फॉर्मेट? जस्ट बाय यूजिंग डॉट जेसन. राइट? सिमिलरली डॉट जेसन विल आल्सो रिटर्न अ प्रॉमिस. राइट? तो अगर डॉट जेसन प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करे तो हमको क्या करना चाहिए? वी हैव टू रिजॉल्व इट. हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू रिजॉल्व इट? वी आर गोइंग टू रिजॉल्व इट बाय दिस await कीवर्ड. राइट? एंड लेट्स गेट दैट डन. एंड हमने रिजॉल्व कर दिया एंड हमने डेटा को प्रिंट करा दिया. लेट्स सी what will happen on my console this time. Obviously whatever was happening earlier, right? वो पेज पर पेज डेटा एंड ऑल ऑफ दिस थिंग. अगेन सिमिलरली जैसे आपने इसमें देखा था, जो ये एरे है, ये हमारा डेटा के अंदर मिलता है, तो हम इसको ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं. अगेन इसमें आपको कंफ्यूज नहीं होना है, राइट? मे बी लेट्स कॉल दिस एज बी ओनली. आपको डेटा के ऊपर डेटा लगाने वाला बात शायद अनकॉमन लगे, इसलिए आई एम जस्ट राइटिंग इट दिस वे. Right? d.data, if I do this, what will happen is that you will now receive data in exactly the same way as you were receiving earlier. Right? So this is how you can get the response of your APIs into your application. Again, ये भी I am sure थोड़ा बहुत still confusing लग रहा होगा लोगों को. What is this fetch and उसको दोबारा JSON करो. What if I tell you there is again a very very simpler way of doing this? ये सब JSON को दोबारा ये करने की जरूरत भी नहीं है, right? What if I tell you that? Right? The answer to that is a third party package, a third party package which we can use. ये हम fetch को बिल्कुल ditch कर सकते हैं, right? Fetch is an internal function, that's why हम fetch को हमने सबसे पहले समझा, right? There is a function called as Axios library, I'll say. Okay, it is a promise based. Can you see this? It is a promise based HTTP client for browser, and let's not focus on Node.js and all these things. Basic thing ये है कि Axios एक आपका पैकेज है जो आपके बेसिस पे एग्जैक्टली वही काम करेगा जो आपका फेच कर रहा था, बट ये थोड़ा सा सिंप्लीफाइड वर्जन है उसका, राइट? थोड़ा सा सिंपलर वर्जन है लिखने का. तो आप Axios को यूज कर सकते हो, बट सिंस ये थर्ड पार्टी लाइब्रेरी है तो आपको इसको ऐड करना पड़ेगा अपने उस पे, राइट? सो हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू ऐड दिस? Axios CDN. Axios का CDN लेके यहाँ से आप Axios का CDN ऐड करो. एंड लेट मी शो यू, कुछ भी ऐड कर लो, ठीक है? एंड मैं इसको यहाँ HTML में लोड करा देता हूँ, ठीक है? एंड एक बहुत सिंपल चीज मैं आपको करके दिखाता हूँ. आई एम गोइंग टू रिमूव दिस ऑल्सो, ठीक है? एंड आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू राइट अगेन मैं सेम फंक्शन गेट यूजिंग Axios, सेम जो हमने ऊपर लिखा था एग्जैक्टली वही लिखूंगा. लेट डेटा इक्वल्स टू, मे बी सीधा रिस्पॉन्स लिख देता हूँ. ना हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू डू दिस? इज वेरी सिंपल. Axios डॉट गेट लिखना है आपको. आपने सिर्फ फेच लिखा था ऊपर, आपको यहाँ Axios डॉट गेट लिखना है. एंड इफ यू डू दिस, just a second, you do this and you still do console log response, sorry, if you do this and again if you run this function of get data using, okay, let's go back to the terminal. Okay, we are getting this. Do we still need to resolve it? I don't think so. Okay, let's see. Then why we are not getting it? Just a second, just a second. It's still resolving. Okay, I think Axios may it returns a promise, right? Which we have. Okay. Oh shit. Sorry. How stupid of me. Yeah, got it. ठीक है. So sorry. ठीक है. I forgot writing this away. ठीक है. तो जैसे ही मैंने लिखा, now you can see, right, कि अब आपको वो JSON करने की जरूरत नहीं है, right? You can just get this data by dot data. कैन यू सी दिस? एग्जैक्टली वो चीज जो हमें पहले चाहिए थी, बट पहले हमको क्या करना पड़ता था? पहले हमको डॉट जेसॉन करने की जरूरत पड़ती थी, राइट? अगेन एक बार और वेट कराना पड़ता था. बट कैन यू सी दिस? यू डोंट नीड टू डू दैट अगेन, राइट? Just because this is a more advanced way, I mean more enhanced way over on top of fetch. Axios is also internally using fetch, but it inside this you don't have to externally call for this JSON once again. Okay, so if you feel like you can use Axios in the near coming future, but you should start your journey with this fetch function, right? I hope this is making some more sense now. And I know it's been a long class with a long discussion about APIs and a long discussion about so many other things. Right? I know, right? I know it's it would have been definitely tricky for me also, right? अगर मैं basic knowledge के बाद भी ये चीजें सीखता तो definitely it would be tricky for me. And I know for most of you who are beginner, they might be thinking that ये शायद API मेरे से नहीं हो पाएगा, but trust me, that is all simple. Just that in this class maybe I was a little on medication, तो थोड़ा उसमें I was away. But anyways, right? So I hope you'll just view this recording one more time, or even, right, in case you just go through the resources and you try doing it, and in case this is not working out, you can let us know, right? We can arrange one more class in which we can do all of this in a very quick and very simple and short, crisp manners, right? But I'm sure that at least some things would have been clear about this. सी डॉट देन डॉट कैच यूज होते हैं, बट थिंग इज दैट, देखो जब आप अभी आपने एग्जांपल में देख लिया कि ये वाले एग्जांपल में कि इसने जो रिटर्न किया वो एक प्रॉमिस था, उसके अंदर भी आपको एक प्रॉमिस रिटर्न करना था, तो देयर इज लाइक चेन बन गया, राइट? डॉट देन हो गया. So it's not like it's rarely used. It is used commonly, but people try to use await because this is much simpler, right? Very shorter syntax on top of dot then. So that's why await बहुत smooth and very, what do you say, very modern way of writing that is dot then dot catch is also written. अगेन एक चीज मैं इसमें और बताना भूल गया आपको. जब आप ये कर रहे हो, राइट, बट आपने यहाँ ये तो हैंडल ही नहीं किया कि अगर फेल हो गया तो आप क्या करोगे, राइट? असिंक अवेट में आपने फेल वाला केस तो लिखा ही नहीं, राइट? सो दैट यू कैन डू वेरी इजीली. ट्राई कैच लगा दो उसके ऊपर कि अगर ट्राई में ये लगाओ, ट्राई हुआ तो मस्त है, नहीं हुआ तो आप कैच लॉक में चलाते हैं. अगर मान लो एपीआई ने रिस्पॉन्स देने से मना कर दिया, राइट, तो आप यहाँ कैच लिख दो. फिर रिस्पॉन्स कुछ गलत आया तो आप यहाँ पे कुछ भी कैच में लिख दो, एंड आप यहाँ पे ERR भी कलेक्ट कर सकते हो, कुछ भी आपको कलेक्ट करना है, यहाँ पे बस ये ERR. दैट्स इट. दैट इज योर वे ऑफ एरर हैंडलिंग, राइट? कि अगर एपीआई ने रिस्पॉन्स नहीं दिया तो आप इसको ऐसे वो कर सकते हो. अगेन ये सिंस लेट ब्लॉक स्कोप होता है तो मैंने इसको बाहर लिख दिया, तो अभी ये एरर दे रहा है. दैट हैज टू गो इनसाइड दिस, राइट? So that is about it, right? So just let's please do go through this lecture. Yeah, right. Once again, I'm sure at least some clarity you must have got, and if not 100%, but at least you must have got the flow, right? कि पहले ये चीज हो रहा था, then ये चीज होता रहता, then ये चीज हो रहा था. Now you can also go through the resource, right? आप एक बार resources पे जाओगे तो resources will start making much more sense now, right? So at least if not 100%, 10-20%, and you'll further get this better clarity in the recordings, in recordings or into the resources, right? So try to view them after this class. In case there is still like major problems, right? You guys are still not able to make API calls, or you're still not able to understand this, do definitely let us know. We can arrange one more class, right, regarding this, and we can even show more demonstration, and we can do some stuff, live coding and all these things with that, right? But just try to make sure that you give ample amount of time, right? You just don't say like, yaar ek naya class le lo, main to dekha bhi nahi and I just want a new class, right? It won't work like that. And let me tell you one more important thing. Yeah, is that what yeah, is that this is going to be your last week of Javascript, right? After post this week you will be in your capstone thing, so I don't think कि अभी शायद आपको ज़्यादा कुछ वो भी पड़ेगा, because I think maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow you'll be having your this week का last class on Git and GitHub का discussion, right? And उसके बाद you'll have to obviously make projects, so you'll eventually figure out how to do things on your own. So that is not going to be problematic. After that, post that you'll be in the React ka module, right? Every method, see, Ayush, I told you, right, key understanding and just basically knowing is good, but it's not practically possible for you and for me also to know all the methods. So it's good to have idea about all of them, right? But in starting you can definitely just know about everything, and jab aapko need pade tab aap just can get that figure out. I don't have idea about key capstone में API है कि नहीं है, so sorry. Module test का भी I don't have any idea, so sorry guys. And more on this classes का side, I don't have much idea on the operations side, right? So all of these information will be passed down to you. Yeah, on the Slack channels or on your whatever means you get notified by, right? So that is, I think, that is probably be going to be our last class of that. What do you say, of that whole JavaScript series. I'm sure, I'm very damn sure that you must have gotten very good confidence what compared to what you already had about JavaScript. I'm just saying that people who already used to know JavaScript, right? They must have created some projects and all of these things, right? They must have also got confidence, right? And definitely, like people who were beginners, they though definitely have got confidence. But people who already knew JavaScript and they might just was able to do stuff, but they didn't knew complete functionality. Now they must have got confidence, and this confidence is very, very required, right? Because that gives you thoda sa moral boost that okay, I know some stuff, I'll be able to get this done, right? And that is most important while you are developing application, because it's basically having that confidence and then figuring out is basically is a part of the process. Yeah, I'll be there in your React module also, right? So with that note, right, I hope that class was all making sense. Okay, damn, it's 1 hour and 42 minutes. I didn't know when it did pass, but anyways, that's it. And hopefully we'll meet in the upcoming classes. And that's just a minute, let me turn the recordings off.